KMEM has renewed its online presence. That's right, you can listen to KMEM anywhere in the world, any time of the day. KMEM streams live online at kmemfm.com. Along with streaming services, you will find the latest news, weather, and obituaries, and not to mention many of your favorite shows in audio form. Just click on the one you want to hear, turn up your speakers, and sit back and relax. It's just that simple. Check us out online at kmemfm.com.
Well, we are under the effect of a winter storm warning from now through midnight tonight. We have received some heavy snow, and we're looking for an additional 6 to 10 inches with blowing snow also in the forecast. It'll be breezy today with a high near 33, with snow and patchy blowing snow tonight, and a low of 29.
This is the award-winning broadcast of Healthy University, bringing health and vitality to you and your family, brought to you by Scotland County Hospital in Memphis. Now, here's your host, Dr. Randy Tobler.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the year and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand.
Good morning. Welcome to Healthy You.
Done all that I could.
You didn't think we'd make it, did you? Well, we're here. I'm glad you're here. I am Dr. Randy Tobler, along with Elisa and Bud, the whole gang. We thank you for joining us. Bud, I got to tell you, man, how you doing? I'm so glad you're here. Glad you're safe. Because Bud was up and down, sliding up and down the driveway, coming in. How many attempts did you make?
Six. We were convinced you were going to find the Lorden Park in the Lutheran parking lot.
Well, I couldn't find that. There's no access to that.
Couldn't find the Lutheran parking lot.
It was great. It was great. And I mean, you look like something out of the Shriners with their little mobiles out in the middle of the parade, except the car is going around in circles. And then I thought about the little Bud that could.
Yeah.
He'd make it a quarter way up the hill, turn around, and for those of you that are familiar with the driveway here to the studios at KMEM, there's a little bit of an uphill, and then you'd make it about a quarter way up, and the next time a third of the way up. And
that crazy car, it's a Kia Soul, and the crazy thing. It's fixed.
I felt like I was at the Mad Hatter at Disney World.
It has an anti-slip mechanism in it.
Yeah, well, remind me not to add that to the next one.
We watched you. You slipped. We witnessed the slippage.
So if you start to slip, it powers the motor down.
Oh, man.
So that you don't have the RPMs you have. Just strange, man. It's just really strange. Wow, good to be here.
And I'm looking out the window here at Dr. Tobler's, 3/4 ton Dodge. Does it have a dent on every... Oh, 1 ton. It has a dent on every corner and bumper.
I've taken a little chunk out of every piece of it.
I can tell.
You mean today?
I thought
character.
that's the way a farm truck was supposed to be.
It is.
Did you see what I pulled it in?
But it shouldn't happen in your driveway.
No.
I back into the dumpster, At any rate, hey, thanks for being here. Hope everyone is safe, sound and safe, and we need to, of course, revisit our snow shoveling advice from the last time we had one of these, because I know everyone's going to want to be getting out there once the blowing stops.
This is that wet, heavy.
That's
snow.
right. That's right.
You just, if you didn't know that before,
so you have to skim off a couple inches at a time.
Right.
Don't try to take the whole spoonful of sugar at once.
Right, and it is super wet. So
good. So I see you have some marketing type flyers in front of you, Bud. What kind of events are happening here? We need to cover those.
There are a couple of things I just wanted to mention quickly. If you have a new baby on the way, moms-to-be and family actually, you can experience the journey to birth no matter what you plan, no matter where actually that you plan to give birth. It doesn't matter if it's at this hospital or another one, or if it's going to be a home birth. The point is we have prenatal classes, and they are a lot of fun, and you learn a lot.
That's right.
And you do it in 2 nights. So it's not a 2-week program or something that you have to.
This is the second week in a row I have not put that into my calendar, but I will. Keep talking.
The dates are?
Excuse me, folks, while I put this into my Android. So just go ahead, Bud. See you at about 11:15.
you can really enjoy this opportunity, and you can bring the family with you. It'll be Monday and Tuesday, March 11th and 12th, and it'll be in the evening from 7 until 9, and it's in the new North Dining Room. Now, if you come into the Ziegler Avenue entrance, parking lot A, the old, what we used to call the old North Hospital entrance, parallel to the nursing home entrance, right there as you come in the door is the brand new dining room area, and that's where this will be. You do not have to deliver at Scotland County Hospital, as we mentioned. There's no fee for this. It's absolutely free. There will be a free tour of the Women's Center, and there will be refreshments provided, of course, both nights for this. The classes are free, but please call and register. That's all we ask. Just call and register. The number 660-465-8511 and ask for the Women's Center. Wanted to mention on scotlandcountyhospital.com, that's our website, that we have openings right now for LPN, RN, and a couple of other, there's a coordinator.
HR coordinator.
HR coordinator. And if you go on the website and click on careers and click on jobs, you'll be able to, not only you'll be able to see those and read what they are, you'll also be able to apply for it right there on the website and send your application in just by applying right there. And then we get them here at the hospital, and we can print them out and take them to the proper departments where they belong. And you can all do this today right in front of the fireplace with your feet up and the laptop, and you can get it done. And then the other thing is we have a book fair that's coming up on Thursday, March 28th. I know these are a little bit into the future, but I want to start getting these in your mind already. And so Thursday, March 28th from 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Now, I think this is going to be in the new library conference center,
It is.
right?
Yep, the book fair. Open to the public.
Yep. Also, folks, let me mention that if you have a meeting that you would like to have a place to attend, and there are several people at it or something like that, no matter what it is, if you need meeting area and place, consider the library and conference rooms. The center over by Memphis Medical Services is connected to the hospital, and if you have a meeting you might want to stop by, ask one of us to show that to you so you can get a chance to see it. And then if you'd like to make an appointment for a meeting of your own to be held over there, you're welcome to do that. Call Kristen Hyde at 660-465-8511. And she can check the calendar for you and hopefully get you a date on there so that you can do that.
And speaking of Memphis Medical, what's the latest on that, Dr. Tobler?
Closed at 11.
Closed at 11.
Closed at 11. So
Lancaster Medical has not opened today.
No,
Lancaster Medical has been closed all
and
day.
we plan on everyone being open, both Lancaster and Memphis, tomorrow.
Yeah. We had concerns about that because I know that early this morning we had some of our staff who were traveling, or attempting, I should say, to travel from Lancaster over to Memphis and got over as far as the tower, the KTVO tower, and had to turn around and go back.
Right.
So it's safety first, folks, and that's the way we're going to do
But
it.
if you do have an emergency, the emergency room is open and there to serve.
We just came from there. I picked up my file, and Danny, Jerry, Jamie, all three of them were out there.
Right.
Two of them with
They're
shovels,
working
one of
hard.
them on a skid loader, and so it's as clear as
they work hard
spring day.
every day, but they're working even harder at
That's
this
a
point.
nightmare. They came in at 5. I talked to one of them. They came in at 5:15 this morning and started.
And we're going to warn him that the way Bud's going today, he'll probably be visiting him in the ER before he makes it home. So, guys, be
As
ready.
that little green
In
car
this-
slides
this little
into Highway
Shiner midget
15.
car
That
out there.
was my worst worry when
I
I
could
got out,
tell.
parked it on that ramp. Is
Yeah.
I hope this thing doesn't slide down into the highway while I'm sitting there.
Coming up later in the program, after our first intermission, Dr. Michael Waddington, a specialist in osteopathic manipulative medicine, and we'll define what that is and the history of it. And of course, we are here at the epicenter of osteopathic medicine in America,
And neuromuscular medicine.
neuromuscular medicine as well.
Yep, assistant professor over at A.T. Still University, and
Great.
over here.
And
with
I
us
have
at
to
Memphis
brag
Medical.
on Michael a little bit. He is one of the kind of doctors that I like to be around, because I like to think that all of the doctors that we have assembled here at Scotland County Hospital and the outlying clinics are problem solvers. Mm-hmm. And, we really like to take on a challenge and, figure out what's going on at the base, the core of it, and not only treat the symptoms, but figure out, at the root cause of it. But he takes this philosophy on steroids.
Yes, indeed.
It's like one of the first times that I was talking with Michael, he says, wow, I saw this interesting patient. She'd been to Mayo Clinic and couldn't find. Now, a lot of us, it's like, well, I've been to Mayo Clinic and Barnes, and what is going to happen? He just cherishes that kind of thing. And it's very difficult to deal with patient after patient after patient that's seen the best docs in the country.
It is.
And he has a different way of looking at things, and we're thankful for that, because often people, when you look at through a different prism, sometimes you get a different answer.
Indeed, we are. And what I hear from people a lot, which is really just tickles me, is like, you know what? I came out of there and I didn't know what was going on, but the next day, this thing has really changed. Right. So that's just awesome.
Now, I did say when you look through a different prism, not prison. Okay, we'll make sure that we understand that. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk to Dr. Waddington. Okay. And we're going to salute a famous doctor who died.
Yes.
And we want to, Dr. C. Everett Koop. Yeah. One of the first medical information sites. Remember drkoop.com? He was a general surgeon during the Reagan administration. He was. And we'll talk about, I think, what defines integrity and commitment to the truth. And the ethic of, the true healer when it comes to Dr. Koop. 96 years old. He gave a speech when he was 94 years old from a wheelchair. He said he was almost deaf and legally blind.
That's Dr. Koop.
Yeah, but we'll talk a little bit about him and talk with another great physician, Dr. Michael Waddington, when we come back. Your calls are welcome.
Yep, 1-800-748-7875 and 660-465-7225.
Before the good is gone, I know I'll never love this way again.
Setting money aside for emergency is a smart move. Expensive car repairs, job loss, or unforeseen medical expenses can present financial challenges. Community Bank of Memphis encouraged you to set aside some money for that rainy day. Invest in a savings account or a short-term CD so your money is available when you need it. When you bank with us, your money is completely safe. Each depositor is FDIC insured to $250,000. Hometown banking with your neighbors and friends at Community Bank of Memphis, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
Planning and patience are the keys to safe winter driving. Plan extra time into your schedule to clean the snow and ice completely from your vehicle and to drive to your destination at a slow, safe speed. Extra time will allow you to be more patient with the weather and other drivers. Take an extra minute before you travel this winter to check the road conditions by calling Missouri's Road Condition Report at 1-800-222-6400. A message from Sergeant Brent Bernhardt of the Missouri State Highway Patrol and KMEM.
Are you a teenager in a relationship? Are you making wise choices? Every choice you make has consequences for good or for bad and will impact your future. Others may tell you to just use protection, but what about emotional and spiritual protection for your heart? Abstinence means waiting for marriage. Abstinence protects against pregnancy, life-threatening diseases, and abstinence protects your heart from being broken. If you would like more information about abstinence, call Memphis Area Pregnancy Care Center at 660-465-7179.
Hunter education is required of all Missouri residents born on or after January 1, 1967. Missouri's program has been recognized as one of the best in the country, as over 1 million students have been certified since it became required back in 1987. The course urges students to become aware of safe firearm practices while afield or at home. Each spring and fall, hundreds of courses are offered throughout the state, so find a course near you. This has been Missouri Conservation Agent Gary Miller.
To my foolish alibi for you, girl, I'm not too clever. I just adore you. Call me unpredictable. Tell me that I'm so impractical. Rainbows.
Welcome back. It's Healthy Youth. It's Tuesday morning. Whether snow or rain or whatever the Postal Service slogan is, we're here to serve you. Along with Bud Wilson and Lisa Kiger, I'm Dr. Randy Tobler. Thank you for being with us. if you're out there shoveling snow already, I mean, it may be a little premature because it's still blowing, but some people like to keep the ultimate burden down by chipping away at it. Be very, very careful. Warm up. If you have risk factors for heart disease, be extremely careful. And if you take a break, we thank you for taking it with us.
Absolutely.
And if you get lightheaded or get a headache or have any kind of tightness in your chest, by all means, stop. Okay? Take it. This is a prime setup. I mean, this is like the perfect storm in many, many ways. Yeah. And we have a question for our special guest because, even professors need to have an entrance exam before they enter the university. You like Michael Bublé, Dr. Waddington?
Hi there. I didn't even catch that last one. What did you say?
Do you like Michael Bublé, the singer on our last bumper music?
Well, I like it enough.
We'll take that as a yes. You're into the university. Thank you. All right, you get the official cap and gown. So Dr. Michael Waddington joins us, and of course from A.T. Still University and instructor down there, assistant clinical professor. Is that right, Michael?
I had been up until this last year.
Okay.
I'm full-time clinic now.
Okay, and teaching residents and students here.
I'm teaching residents and students
in Memphis and at surrounding institutions as well. And we welcome you. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about, and I'm going to take this from my very personal standpoint because being trained in the allopathic MD world, I ran across one or two osteopaths down in St. Louis where I trained. There's been up until very recently sort of an oil and water relationship between osteopaths and MDs. But I had come to know when we bought a farm in the area that, osteopaths view the world in a way that I like, which is a more whole body, holistic, structure and function kind of a thing. And we are blessed to have really the epicenter of osteopathy here right out of Kirksville. Give us a little bit about the history and what it is that really, really piqued your interest, Dr. Waddington.
Well, sure. Osteopathy started really right in Missouri here, and Kirksville, there was a guy named Andrew Taylor Still who basically he suffered a lot of personal trauma. He was a physician, and he lost several children to meningitis and various other ailments. And he watched as the mainstream medicine of his day in the late 1800s was completely powerless to help them. And he was very frustrated, and it seemed to him like a lot of the people around were selling snake oil, and they just the mainstream medicine of the day, the arsenic and the bloodletting and the what they had just wasn't very effective, and it seemed to be all based on hearsay. And he was pretty frustrated. So he knew his anatomy pretty well. He had been studying it a lot. He served in the Civil War as a field surgeon, like trauma surgeon type person, and just drew on his knowledge of anatomy. And I guess one day, I guess the way it started was he had a headache one day, and he laid down in such a way that he put pressure on the back of his head, and the headache went away. And it just kind of a little light bulb went off, and said, "Well, maybe I can use my knowledge of anatomy. Why did that work?" And he thought his way through. And he thought, well, what if we can correct anatomy in other areas of the body and get symptoms to relieve? And based on knowledge and science and trying to figure this stuff out so we can get reproducible results, and he started applying it to all sorts of different diseases and getting tremendous results. And he had people come from all over the country to see him, and it was kind of this little phenomena. Everybody thought he was a quack, most likely. His own family thought he was a quack, most likely. But he was getting results that people couldn't deny as time went on, and pretty soon people wanted to study under him and learn what he was doing, and they kind of talked him into starting a school right here in the middle Missouri, in Kirksville area, actually. Since then, several other schools popped up around the country, and his vision was getting the body to heal itself. You correct the abnormal anatomy, so allow the body to do its work and heal itself.
So, Dr. Waddington, how is the osteopathic model then different than the allopathic? So, the MD, we've got Dr. Tobler here. He's our host. He's an MD, and we've got you on the line, and you're a DO. Give us just the short version of allopathic medicine and osteopathic medicine.
Well, allopathic medicine's come a long, long ways since his day, obviously. And he himself was fairly anti-allopathic medicine of his day, and people will take his quotes out of context. They look at it today and say, well, he was anti-mainstream medicine, and they were thinking that he wasn't very scientific. In his day, he was as scientific as they come. And basically, I think he'd be very supportive of anything that could help people survive and do better in the long run. But his concept really was to support the body in achieving that. He thought that the body could create its own drugs, and if everything was doing well, I mean, the body has very good antibiotics built in. It has very good healing properties built in. And in most cases, if everything's going well, the body can heal itself. The allopathic medicine is very, very, very good at acute issues. When someone is, they have some major trauma and you need to save their lives, allopathic medicine really shines in that regard. I think a lot of people with osteopathic medicine, one of the strengths, I think, is that it helps with the patients with chronic diseases when you're trying to get the body to actually step up and do more of the work. And, you can use a lot of different meds on people who are just sick and not feeling well, but they may still be sick and not feeling well, even if you suppress a lot of their symptoms and have them feeling better in certain ways. If you put enough meds on board, pretty soon there's some side effects to those meds, and the suffering continues. I guess the gem that osteopathy has to offer is, maybe sometimes we can get people off some of these meds, hopefully, by getting the body to step up and do some of the work.
Yeah, I guess what thrills me about this addition to my tool chest, even though I don't practice osteopathy, I know the right people, Dr. Waddington is among them, to send patients to. And the typical patient that I think most allopathic docs struggle with is the patient who says, Doc, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. And I mean, I think you in the studio and you in the audience know that, I mean, Helene and I, through a severe illness I had, sort of came not to an osteopathic understanding of the world, but an understanding that lifestyle and what you do to your body, either in inhibiting its healing properties or augmenting them and supporting and nurturing them, has a lot to do with how you feel and whether you get well or whether you don't. And especially when it comes to the chronic illnesses, the things when the doctor throws up their arms, and some osteopathic doctors do this too. I mean, it's not just them.
Absolutely.
And say, I don't know, I'm out of things to do. Well, now there's an extra tool in the tool chest for people that will be open-minded to the fact that for some people osteopathy, for some people it's acupuncture, for some people it's herbal medicine, for some people it's meditative medicine. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to attack things, and they all ultimately result in, I think, just really paying deep, deep, deep respect to what is a very complex and wonderful and restorative organism called the human body.
Absolutely.
Is that the right way to put it, Michael?
I can't agree more. That's it.
Okay, when we come back after the next break, I want to talk a little bit about an increasingly common problem that we hear more and more about, fibromyalgia. That is one that I think that is probably the prototype. Dr. Waddington and I often spend, I mean, we're both sort of nerds. Okay, you have to know that.
Really?
Yeah, we are. You wouldn't guess that, would
I
you?
didn't. You had to tell us on air.
Did you see the hat that I wore in today?
I did.
Yeah, well, that tells the story. But we love just sitting and jawboning after hours about, like, wow, the patient that I saw, what would you do with that? And, I tried this. That's the kind of thing that is so fun, because these are the patients that are very, very difficult. And while there may not be an instant answer, it may not be, I know Michael has on occasion just done the right, and things get better, but sometimes that isn't anything but the beginning of the answer. It's fun to talk about those kind of things. We talk about the same things when Helene's on the program. We talk about sleep and nutrition and this and that. So let's open the phone lines, okay? And let's invite, and Dr. Waddington's a little bit peculiar this way, because he says, you remember the bring me your hungry, he's like, bring me your sickest. Bring me the problem that no one else could solve. It's like it's like an energy, an ever-ready energy bunny, battery to me. I love that, and that's good, because these days when docs are asked to see more and more patients and less time, he cherishes that kind of an interaction. The numbers are 465-7225.
And 1-800-748-7875. The Thinker, Dr. Michael Waddington.
Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside we both know what's been going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And
Presenting How to Kill a Business. Don't advertise.
Just pretend that everybody knows what you have to offer.
Don't advertise.
After all, you really don't have time to spend thinking about promoting your business.
Don't advertise.
You've been in business so long, customers automatically come to you.
Don't advertise.
Remember, there are new potential customers out there.
In good times, you should advertise. In bad times, you must.
Call the KMEM Advertising Department today at 465-7225 or toll-free 1-800-748-7875 for more information.
The Missouri Department of Conservation will be hosting an Evening with Wildlife event Tuesday, March 19th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Schuyler County High School Gym in Queen City. The feature presentation will begin at 7:30 p.m. and will be on mountain lions and black bears in Missouri. Exhibits will be set up by the Conservation Department, local taxidermists, and other wildlife-related organizations. There will be numerous wildlife mounts, furs, live snakes, and other educational materials on display. This event is free and is an open house forum, so you can come and go as you please. This has been Missouri Conservation Agent Shannon Smith.
Your farming operation demands your time, so it can be difficult to keep up with the news and events of the ag industry. That's why you should listen daily to Real Country 100.5 KMEM for reports from the Brownfield Network. Brownfield's team of expert farm broadcasters keep you informed on the latest news, markets, analysis, weather, and more, so you can keep up to date with the latest in the world of agriculture. Tune in today. Real Country 100.5 KMEM.
Try the General Store weekdays with Dave Bowden from 9:06 to 10 a.m. right here. Our two-station simulcast means we get an average of close to 50 calls every weekday. Hundreds of people might be interested in your items, and who knows, you may even find a bargain. Call Dave Bowden on the General Store at 1-800-748-7875 or 660-465-7225.
Sit down, take a look at yourself. Don't you want to be somebody? Someday somebody's gonna see inside. You have to face up. You can't run and hide. Have you heard about the lonesome loser? Beaten by the queen of hearts every time. Have you heard about the lonesome loser? He's a loser, but he still keeps on trying. Have you heard about the lonesome loser? Have you heard about the lonesome loser?
Why did everyone in the studio just look at Bud when that line came about the lonesome loser? No, we're kidding. I just can picture Bud, lonesome loser, spinning around in the parking lot today. No, I'm kidding.
In his little Shriner car.
His little Shriner car.
Shriner car doing
Where's that hat with the big poof on top?
Yeah, what kind of a car is that? It does look like a larger version of the little Shriner car.
Snow Soulmate.
Huh? What is
Kia
it?
Soul.
A Kia. It's sort of a squared off car, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It looks like a toaster.
Seeing you doing wheelies there, little spin arounds. Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah. We're talking with Dr. Michael Waddington. And how should we best refer to you, Dr. Waddington? A specialist in osteopathic manipulative medicine, neuromuscular medicine, the tough case guy?
The official title, my board certification is neuromusculoskeletal medicine, but that's a mouthful. Some people just say OMM for osteopathic manipulative medicine. That's the way it's historically known around here in this area. It's OMM.
And his patients that have had tough problems for a long time and get better say, "Oh my, man." That's what OMM stands for.
Well, that's a good thing.
So let's talk about that dreaded problem that all doctors just shudder when a patient comes in saying, my fibromyalgia is just like really raging. It's just terrible because we don't know what it is. I mean, it's sort of this undefined thing that can be disabling. What is fibromyalgia?
It is a defined thing, actually. It's defined as a patient that hurts a lot, and we don't know what the diagnosis is. That's how it's defined. I mean, if you actually look at the definition,
and I would call it that. That means it's basically undefined because we don't know what's wrong, right?
But the type of pain that they have, so they have to have 11 of 18 very specific tender points in their body, and by tender points, I mean you push very lightly, and they have a withdrawal response immediately. So it's not something that's easily faked. Some people can have that, though, and have a specific cause of it. In fact, everybody who has that, there's a specific cause of it. It's just when you can't find out what the cause is, they label them as fibromyalgia. But there's only certain kinds of things that can cause that kind of pain. And that's where I start using my reasoning process to try and get to the source of it. So when I see a patient that's labeled with fibromyalgia, I make it my mission to actually try to figure out what the diagnosis is, because usually some doctor had given up on the diagnostic process on them because either they were too difficult to deal with or too complicated, or they tested what they could think of and it was all normal. So
yeah, and let's talk about that. I mean, the usual route to a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, at least, I mean, sort of the prototypical pathway that I've seen is some trauma, whether it's a life trauma, a stressor, a severe, intestinal infection, colitis, a flu bug. It can be an emotional trauma. It seems very often there's some kind of an inciting event. Then the patient starts hurting, and then they see their doctor, and then they may see their primary care, and they may see a rheumatologist. They get worked up for things like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and all that, and they'll test her negative, right?
Yep.
And then so it's sort of like, okay, you hurt, you're tender, I can't find a reason, you got fibromyalgia. And then that's where lots of medicines usually come in, and they have a lot of side effects.
Right. And so my thought process, what I've observed, some of this is the science that I've studied. Some of it is kind of my own observations. But my own observation is that every patient that I've seen with true 11 of 8 or more of 18 tender points, they have this kind of global tenderness throughout their body. Every single patient I've seen like that has had some major sleep issues. And major, I mean, like if you didn't take any sleep meds, they would sleep between maybe 2 and 4 hours a night.
Wow.
And it would usually be interrupted. They'd lay awake a lot at night. They'd be tossing and turning a lot.
So that predates the illness in your experience?
It usually predates the illness in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a progression often, and there's all sorts of reasons why the sleep might be disturbed, but one of the common ones is post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is where you have rape victims and war survivors, people in war zones or soldiers coming back from war who've experienced something extremely traumatic, and then their sleep is horrible all the time. They're waking up feeling like they're in the middle of it. And when the sleep is that bad for a period, not just like for a few days, but for a few months or years, it takes its toll on the nervous system, and that's probably, if it's severe enough. Now, a lot of people go through trauma and they don't have the super severe sleep disturbance, and then they don't get fibro. But I think that the ones that just maybe haven't psychologically dealt with the trauma at the level of their nervous system, like their nervous system is just kind of, it's holding on to it in some way. I don't know a better way of
So in a
explaining it,
general sense, the common phrase I've heard that it's sort of a central pain processing problem?
Yeah,
right?
it is. It is a central pain processing
Can we
problem.
draw a blood test yet that says, oh, you've got too much of pain chemical A or B or substance
we're
P?
getting there, actually.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but we're getting there. I've seen some promising research, but it's just it's too new at this point to be reliable.
Mm-hmm.
But there are actually some objective measures. There's changes at the spinal cord level in fibromyalgia patients. If we could do biopsies on everybody's spinal cords, we would know which ones have fibromyalgia and which ones don't.
Bud just raised his arm. He'd like to be the first volunteer for that.
I bet.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, though, the patients have all sorts of reasons for these kinds of sleep issues. I mean, chronic infections to cancers to sleep apnea to chronic pain after an injury, and the pain keeps them up all the time, and it becomes a sleep problem and then becomes a global sensitization problem. There's a lot of reasons. It's just the more common ones that present this way, I'd say about half to two-thirds are like post-traumatic stress disorder, and then the rest are a variety of different health problems that interrupt sleep in some massive way. And it seems like sleep meds are not enough to get the symptoms improved. It seems like a lot of sleep meds just kind of knock you out, but they don't normalize your sleep architecture. It doesn't allow the central nervous system to reboot the way normal sleep does. So a lot of these patients, if I can work their physiology, though, to get their sleep normal, if I can calm down their sympathetic nervous system and then they start getting normal sleep, it seems like that's what reverses the fibromyalgia in the cases I can reverse.
And how do you calm down? So what are your tricks from what you just explained?
it's not really, tricks. It's just, I have some tools with my hands.
It is tricks because he refuses to share them with me. He's like the trout fisherman that has the magic lure that's catching all the fish. I say, could you just show me one or two of these? Oh no, not you. You're a gynecologist. No, that's not true.
I'm teaching everybody.
No, he is. I'm kidding you.
I have got all these students that in resident. I give everything I do on a silver platter to anybody who will listen, who can. They have at least some background that they can learn.
I notice
this
you
stuff.
always have a lot of students whenever you're over here.
Yes, always a lot of students.
That's awesome.
And so, basically, there's a variety of techniques that they teach in osteopathic medical school to get abnormal anatomy normal, and I've just picked up a few more along the way from different teachers from around the country that I've studied under. But basically, it doesn't matter what technique you use. Basically, you have to know what part of the nervous system or what part of the body is abnormal and have some mechanism by which to make it normal again. And if you can figure out what part of the body is abnormal causing the sleep disturbance, many times when you're talking about the sympathetic nervous system, you're talking about an area in the upper belly called the celiac ganglia, which when it's irritated enough, all the fascias and soft tissue in that area get really tight. I don't know if you've ever had the feeling of something bad is happening in your life and you have this sinking feeling in your gut and your whole epigastric area, the area above your belly button, starts tightening up.
Have you had to do a show with Bud Wilson before?
I was going to say I had that
happens
feeling
every Tuesday morning at 9:50.
Celiac ganglia, wasn't she nominated for Best Actress the other night? I don't know.
Ganglion block of some kind. I felt that way in the driveway this morning.
It's pretty common. But
that's the pit in your stomach?
And then you relax, it's fine.
Okay,
But some people, if the trauma is severe enough, that area gets stuck that way. And when it's stuck that way, you can't sleep.
Yeah,
so when you're trying to fall asleep at night and that area is tight, your mind, as your mind gets quiet, your mind is going to drift to whatever is tense in your body, and it goes to there. But it often reminds you of whatever put that tension there. So just the way the nervous system works by association. Your stomach is tight. You might not even be conscious your stomach's tight, but your mind will subconsciously drift to that tension. And then, it's in your mind, it's going to start racing, and it's going to start drifting back to those things that were traumatic that put it there in the first place.
Right, and then you're not going to get the kind of sleep that you would have normally have got.
Right.
I saw a story today in the health news about talking about a run of poor sleep can have a potentially profound effect on internal workings of our bodies and activities of hundreds of genes were altered when people's sleep was cut. These guys' sleep was cut to less than 6 hours a day for 1 week, just for 1 week, and it can have a drastic.
So imagine 2 hours a day for 3 years.
Wow.
Mike, let me ask you this. I've had patients through the years that have been my toughest, because my wife has been so good about reminding me not to be sleepless when I don't have to be because of what I do. And so, we've sort of dabbled in sleep and making sure that our clients get good sleep and so forth. But the toughest problem I have, and I'm wondering if this sort of tangentially sort of intersects with what you've been talking about, patients that will come in and say, I am dead tired, but I can't sleep. I know I'm tired. I've done 5 times a normal day's work, and now by the time I see them, this has gone on. This is happening 6 out of 7 days or 13 out of 14 days, and I know I can sleep, but I just can't shut it off. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
It's sort of what I'm talking about, but a very, very mild version of it in most cases. So they might lay awake for a half hour at night before they fall asleep, or an hour, and as long as they're doing some activity in their lives, exercise, that seems to burn off the extra stress hormones. If they're doing anything that involves deep breathing, it's going to exercise their diaphragm. It often disrupts that tension in the epigastric area to a degree. If as close as they can make that area normal on their own, your sleep will tend to improve. And I think in the absence of doing something interventional like what I do, I think patients that just get good exercise, good intense exercise, exercise the diaphragm, burn off the extra stress hormones, they're going to do well in most cases if it's a stress issue. There are sleep issues caused by all sorts of other things though too, like sleep apnea, for example. Someone's heavy and they can't get good sleep in, their sleep's going to be disturbed all night, and I mean, exercise might be the answer there too, but it's going to take a while. You know, you got to lose the weight for it to work.
Would you advise for people that are there has to be, I mean, to my knowledge, when people come in with a diagnosis of fibromyalgia and they've been hurting for months or years.
Yeah, many of them don't want to exercise.
They didn't. It wasn't like a light switch, though. It wasn't like on July 1st I felt great, and on July 2nd I feel like I do now. A year, on July 2nd of the next year.
And the recovery isn't always like a light switch either. I mean, I've had ones where after one, I've had cases where like I'll see them and they come in with fibro, and then the next day they're like normal and they stay normal. But I've also had ones where they're like 2/3 better, and they don't really have the tender points anymore, but they're still not quite normal yet. And then I have to work with them several times, and there's exacerbations and remissions in some of them. And so it's not like a light switch at all. It probably comes and goes a lot with the amount of stressors in their life and how severe. I think the ones that I have the most trouble with are the ones where their life is extremely stressful every day right now. Yeah. The ones where the trauma is in the past, you can fix the nervous system, and then it's not as likely to come back. But people in an abusive relationship today, for example, you can fix them up, and then they go home and they're getting their life threatened.
Right.
They're going to be tense again, and their sleep is still going to
sort of like putting a little Neosporin on that crack right in the knuckle crease, and you're bending the knuckle all the time. It's not going to fix. So you gotta try to remove those stressors as well.
I can do what I can, but ultimately, if the cause is something out of my control, I mean, at least I try and figure out what that is if I can, and help the patient figure it out.
Can you hang with us another break? Take it to the top of the hour?
All right.
Okay, we'll do that. Dr. Michael Waddington joins us here live on Healthy You, KMEM 100.5 on a very snowy day. And, gosh, is this ever going to end, Bud?
Yes.
Tomorrow. It's like Snowmageddon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wow. It's not as bad as it was a couple years ago when there were drifts up to your chest.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. Hey, we'll come back, and I guess we're going to go to the Bahamas here for a little while with this bumper music, and then we'll come back, okay? Give us a call if you have a vexing problem, and maybe Dr. Waddington could give us his thoughts.
Yeah, 1-800-748-7875 and 660-465-7225.
You're the lady I've looked for. Come with me and escape.
Winter is beautiful, but it can make traveling treacherous. Be aware of traffic patterns and be courteous to other drivers. Missouri traffic crash reports indicate the most contributing factor of traffic crashes are inattention, traveling too fast for conditions, failing to yield, and following too close. When the roads are snow-covered or icy, the chance you'll be in a traffic crash increases. Patience is the key to safe winter driving. A message from Sergeant Brent Bernhardt of the Missouri State Highway Patrol and KMEM.
Listen to the radio driving in your car. Radio gets results. Radio is there no matter where you are. Radio gets results. When you need to get your message through, people really do listen to you. Coming through loud and clear, no matter what you're telling, no matter what you're selling, everyone will hear. Radio gets results. Radio gets results. Radio gets results. Radio gets results. That's radio.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And we're back here on Healthy You with Dr. Michael Waddington, and neuromuscular specialist in osteopathic manipulation and fixing hard things to fix, right? Sort of?
That's right.
Okay, whatever. I didn't get it right,
Good
but
enough.
it's a long word that he's board certified in. And if you have a tough problem, we'd love to have you call us here because he has a different way of looking at the world. And that's a good thing because doctors sometimes with very difficult problems in a busy, busy world, and sometimes the more mature the doctor as far as practice longevity, the more patients, it gets difficult. And sometimes you get frustrated. And Dr. Waddington loves taking care of those problems. So I'd invite you to make an appointment if you'd like to see him. There's a little bit of a wait, isn't there, Mike?
Yeah, I think we got about a month right now.
Yeah.
So.
You can call Memphis Medical Services.
Yep. 660-465-2828.
Yeah. And we've been talking a little bit about fibromyalgia. What are some of the things that maybe folks that have either been told they have fibromyalgia or the doctor's thinking that out loud and is doing some of that testing, and it's like, well, I don't know, maybe that's what's going on, because that's what doctors do. They sort of begin talking about possibilities. Are there some self-help things that people can do as the process is evolving, so maybe they wouldn't have to see you?
First and foremost, they could see me from the beginning and I could do the workup, but the types of people who do these workups are usually rheumatologists, and most of them, family practice doctors can do this as well. But sometimes family practice doctors, they're very good at many things, but maybe they don't think of all of the different important things there are to rule out. At some of them, it's one of the things to think about. There's a lot of things to think about. They need to, let me kind of get back on track here. I guess as a patient, what you can do is make sure that they've tested for a lot of the main things that it could be. You want to make sure that it's not like a cancer, because I've seen patients that have been labeled with fibromyalgia, and it turned out to be a cancer, and they were. The doctors were kind of pushing them around for 5 years and just telling them they were kind of crazy, and they just had to deal with their pain, and it turned out fairly large cancer, and actually 2 different cases like that I can think of off the top of my head. And once we finally got them diagnosed, they get the tumor out, and suddenly the pain's all gone, and then you have your answer.
And the moral of the story is, whether it's me or any of the doctors here or any of the doctors at Mayo or Barnes or Dr. Waddington, if you're not getting answers, go get it looked at through a different prism.
Yeah.
And any doctor that doesn't,
opinion,
and I don't know if you agree with this, Michael, but this is something I'm just rabid about telling patients. Look, if a doctor is put off, defensive, insulted, because you're sort of at an impasse, you're plateauing with your workup or your disease process, and you're not getting anywhere, the doctor that's defensive, put off, mad at you, stomps and hisses and pouts because you're going to get a second opinion, that probably shouldn't be your doctor. Wouldn't you agree?
I think that's just the doctor kind of defending their pride, and it's understandable if you put yourself in their shoes. But for me personally, if the patient's not getting better fast, I want to know why, and
Bingo.
I want to get a second opinion right away.
Bingo.
So I send them to get second opinions.
You got it, and so do I, and so do all of our
But I would say even with just being labeled with fibromyalgia, just make sure your doctor's done a good cancer workup for one, and just think about like just general factors. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you dealing with stressors in your life?
Well, let me ask you about
counseling.
that. One of the new pieces of information that now is becoming, it's sort of common sense to me, but I've been reading it more and more in the literature. Movement is really important for people with fibromyalgia, even though it's hard for them to move, right?
Absolutely. Okay. And let me just kind of put yourself in their shoes for a little bit. I don't know, most people who don't have fibromyalgia, myself included, it's hard for me to imagine what it would be like to be like that every day. Because when you see these people, they don't look like super sick or super in pain. Many times they look pretty normal, and they tell you they're in a lot of pain. But what it comes down to, what I've had described to me over and over again, is it feels like you have the flu, and you have the aches and pains all over your body, only times 10, 24/7. But with those aches and pains in your body, you can walk around and look almost normal when you're walking around. But it's a different kind of pain than like a sharp stabbing pain from like an injury, where there's like swelling and bruising and like inflammation, and you react differently to that, because then every time you move it hurts. But when everything hurts, but it's like that achy pain, you can actually move pretty normally. It's just, I don't know, maybe that would help some of the audience who having trouble identifying with this type of thing, just so they can kind of appreciate what this might be like. When you have symptoms like that, essentially, you need to know why. I mean, that's not something people can live with. And so, you know, if there's a psychiatric trauma in the history, get counseling. You know, if there's you know, a mechanical reason, if any of the things that I've talked about as possible causes, hepatitis even as a possible cause, there's a lot of different things that can trigger this.
What about doing things that certainly aren't going to help any problem, and maybe this one as well? Things like smoking, things like even what some would call moderate alcohol use. Are you pretty aggressive? I know I am about trying to get people to stop those things.
Well, I do try. I mean, basically, I'm just here to serve the patients. If they want to quit, I'll give them everything. I'll give them all the data. I'll tell them how what they're doing is affecting their condition, and if they want to quit, I'll help them quit. But you know, I'm not here to preach either. You know, they're going to do what they're going to do. There's a lot of people doing a lot of dumb things out there, and you know, you can't control them. If I get worried about it, then I'm wasting my energy. You know, let them decide for themselves. I mean, they're adults, but if they have pain and they're not getting better and they're doing some of these things that are contributing, certainly that's part of it.
Dr. Wadding,
pain, though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, actually, we're down to almost less than 1 minute. I know you've worked wonders with people with headaches, and I hate to shift gears with 1 minute to go, but what type with Andrew Taylor Still, he laid down and solved his headache. Okay, what type of magic are you working
for headaches in particular? Mm-hmm. Oh boy. I mean, I'm trying to. As for everything I do, I'm looking for cures. You know, I want to get people all better and off all their medicines and like 100% good. And I've had a lot of success with migraines, sometimes with patients who've had daily migraines for years and years. Sometimes 1 or 2 visits, we can get them cut down in severity and frequency by 50% or more. And then they stay that way in the long run, which is wonderful. Sometimes after a few visits, we get them down to almost nothing, even if they've had it forever. It's just about getting the mechanics normal. And usually there's a reason in the mechanics for them to have the symptoms that they have, and we can fix that in many cases. I've had patients with really weird migraine variants that look like strokes, called atypical migraines, and I've had a lot of success getting them better as well.
And in some cases, what you're doing is using your tool chest just to address different problems, but often these are sort of common structure function kind of relationships, right?
Anybody with that type of structural problem would have the same symptoms as them in most cases.
Yeah. Well,
that's our.
I think, I mean, look at this. I thought, wow, it just flew by. You blinked twice, and we've covered fibromyalgia. We didn't even get to headaches very much. We'll have to have you back in the future so we can talk about that.
That'd be great.
Thanks for being with us, Michael. I'm sure that you'll be having some requests for some emergency fill-in slots after us weekend warriors are trying to shovel too much snow, especially the heavy stuff. But maybe we've got to do a show on low back pain. We have to do a show on headaches. We have to do a show on pregnancy pain. Oh, my gosh. Too much to cover, too little time. That'll do it. Thanks, Dr. Michael Waddington. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks all for being here. Be careful in the snow, whether you're shoveling or driving. Bud, be careful with that little Shriners car of yours.
I'm going to hum right on down there.
And Lisa, thank you for making it in today as well. Remember, this week, be well, share it with someone you love. We'll see you next time on Healthy University here on KMEM 100.5.
It's the Tri-States, America's best country. You're listening to 100.5 KMEM, Memphis, Missouri.